What's up everyone, me JP2 here, and in today's video, we have level 50 Houndoom in the Master League. Now Houndoom, it's a dark and fire type, which does mean it does considerably well against a lot of the psychic types and the psychic and steel types, like Metagross, Solgaleo, Mewtwo, stuff like that. So it actually is able to just completely wall a lot of those Pokemon, which is very fun to see. Now, I would not recommend building this thing for the Master League. If you want it for the Mega, I'd use it for that, but in Battle League, it just doesn't do too well simply because the combat power doesn't even break 3,000, so I wouldn't really recommend using it for that. Now, the thing was still a lot of fun to use, and I was quite happy with how it performed overall, so let's hop into the battles. Alright, so hopping into the first battle, and we lead Houndoom into Dialga. This is not ideal because we can't really hit them for super effective here, so I'm just going to go for the Crunch and maybe just switch out. Now I go for the Crunch, gets no shielded, I'm going to farm up to another Crunch, and I'm going to go for it, and the opponent still doesn't have to shield this if they don't want to, but I'm going to switch into Dragonite and try and snipe. I unfortunately do not, they still have too much HP, but they go for a Thunder, and I shield it. They then send in Mewtwo, and this is not ideal because down a shield, Mewtwo just is very strong overall. But I am able to grab a shield with the Dragon Claw. Now the opponent, I don't know if Psy Strike takes us out from this range. It depends on how leveled the Mewtwo is, but Ice Beam, that definitely takes us out. I send in Houndoom, and they still can't Psycho Cut me down, but then they send in a Mudshot user. I didn't see exactly what that was. They send in a Garchomp. Now I go for the Crunch just to burn the Switch Clock, and then I send in Togekiss. Now, Togekiss is good here because it hard walls Garchomp, and Outrage doesn't do much. We still should not be in Psy Strike range, but if they're just going to go straight Ice Beam here, that would take us out, so I do commit the shield. Now, I'm going to go for the Ancient Power. Actually, I decide against it. I decide that Fast Move Pressure is the way to win here, and Houndoom is so low here. Can it actually hang on? And it barely does. Psycho Cut being double resisted takes that game for us. We see Mewtwo on the lead in the next battle, and this is perfect because Houndoom just destroys Mewtwo. So I'm going to throw the Crunch on good timing, and this Mewtwo is farming up a bit. That does have me a bit concerned that they might be running Focus Blast, so I definitely am going to commit a shield here just to be safe, because Focus Blast will obliterate Houndoom. They go for the Focus Blast, and because I shielded it, Houndoom's able to stay alive, because it definitely would not if I had no shielded. They then switch into Conkeldurr, and I switch into Togekiss. Now, Togekiss can just farm them down. They didn't even farm up to a Stone Edge, so there's no way I'm shielding. And then they send in Ursaluna. Now, Aura Sphere is nice here because it'll hit for a lot of damage, and Aura Sphere is able to get them pretty close to the red health. Now, the opponent still has to throw a move if they want to take us out, and I don't know if Ice Punch or Thunder Punch will take us out from this range, and it barely doesn't. I'm able to get one more Charm through, and Dragon Breath will be able to take them out. Now, they send back in the Mewtwo, and I have way too much energy on Houndoom. The opponent lets the Crunch go through, it does huge damage, and Houndoom farms down. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Zarude. This is an amazing lead, because even if we can't hit for big damage with fast moves, they're completely walled, and I can hit for big damage with Flamethrower. The opponent then sends in a Lugia, and I'm fine with staying in here. Everything on my team does very well into Zarude, while Houndoom is a good matchup for Lugia. Now, I got the defense drop with that Crunch, and the opponent actually shields because of that. Now, I should be able to make it to another Crunch, and I got 2 debuffs, so this actually will take them out from this range. I'm going for the Crunch, and Crunch actually does take out the Lugia. The opponent then sends in Zarude, and they have a move. Houndoom has done a lot this match already, so I'm just going to let it go. I send in Togekiss, they switch into Giratina, and I bring in Dragonite, and they just concede the match. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Mamoswine. This is kind of a bait game because Houndoom will get obliterated by high horsepower. The opponent doesn't even farm up to it, so I don't know what they're thinking. If that was an Ancient Power, that would do a lot of damage though, so I wonder if they were just hoping I'd think they'd have that, but I don't think they have that, so that's why I no shielded. I'm going to go for the Crunch bait. Just if I can get a debuff, Flamethrower will definitely take him out, and they let the second move go through, and Flamethrower does take him out. They then send in Tyranitar, and they do get the Bite farm down, but that's fine because Togekiss can beat the Tyranitar. Then they switch into Melmetal. Now, Melmetal is pretty bad now because Houndoom's gone. My whole team is weak to the Rock Slide, so I am not happy about seeing Melmetal, But on the bright side, Dragonite should be able to make it to back-to-back superpowers, even if the second one is going to be debuffed. Now, I actually go for the Dragon Claw bait, because I think I am one Dragon Breath off the back-to-back superpowers, but if I get the bait with the Dragon Claw, which I do, I will have another superpower. Superpower does enough damage that Togekiss can farm him down, so I'm just going to let this go through. Rock Slide takes out Dragonite, but they're too low. Togekiss gets a farm down. We have a shield. There's no way they can bite farm us down, so I'm just going to shield this move just to be safe. I doubted they had enough for a Stone Edge anyways, but Brutal Swing wouldn't take us out. We'll be able to make it to an Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere will easily take out the Tyranitar, and we're going to be able to take this game. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Dragonite. This is pretty bad because we don't wall them. We don't hit them for super effective in any way. So this is just us getting destroyed because Dragonite has a much higher stat total. They go for the Dragon Claw. It does massive damage, and I'm going to go for the Crunch. They no-shield the Crunch, and I have to switch out into Togekiss to avoid getting farmed down. They then send in Mamoswine, and this is not good either. I have to double shield here because I cannot let Dragonite see Mamoswine. On the bright side, I should be able to get one of those shields back with an Ancient Power, but this still is not good. Ancient Power will grab the shield, but another Avalanche will take us out, so I do have to shield here because I need this Mamoswine out, and Togekiss is the fastest way to get rid of it. We get the farm down, and the opponent then comes in with their own Togekiss, and yeah, I can go for the Ancient Power here. They don't even have to shield this. They can just save the shield. They do shield it, though, and we're just going to get destroyed by Togekiss. Dragonite can do nothing, and Houndoom's way too low, so I just concede the match. Hopping to the next battle, and we see another Mamoswine on the lead. And this time, I am just going to go straight for the Flamethrower. I was thinking they'd call a bait here, but they don't, and they shield, so that's fine. We still get the shield, which is fine either way. The opponent goes for an Avalanche. I am going to shield, and now I'm going for a Crunch. Crunch will not take them out, but it'll do some nice damage. The opponent no-shields it, and at this point, I'm not committing a shield either. Avalanche does some pretty big damage, and I do actually make it to another Crunch. Now, I did also make it to a Flamethrower, but since either one would KO and I had assumed they'd shield, I decided to fish for the debuff. I do have to send in Togekiss because Dragonite will get wrecked by an Avalanche, so Togekiss will be able to get a farm down, but now all shields are down. They send in Kyogre, and I do switch into Dragonite because it's better into the Kyogre, and they send in their own Dragonite. Now, I am going to be able to go for a Dragon Claw here. Their Dragonite is underleveled, so Dragon Claw does take it out. They send back in the Kyogre, but they're just not going to be able to take this game, because even if they take the Dragonite out, Togekiss can charm them down. We go for the Dragon Claw, and the opponent just stops attacking at the end, and we're able to take him out. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Houndoom into another Mewtwo. Amazing lead. The opponent, I expect them to switch out, but they're actually staying in. Now, the opponent then tries to catch onto a Ho-Oh, but I can just switch into Dragonite, and Dragonite just shuts Ho-Oh down. Now, it has been mentioned that if they land a Brave Bird, they can shield and farm down, but fortunately, I don't really care about Switch Advantage as much. They go for a Fire Blast, though, so that definitely won't take us out. And hopefully I can just fully farm down, and I get the full farm down. The opponent sends back in the Mewtwo, and I would have lost CMP anyways. That's why I threw the Dragon Breath, because it might have gotten some damage off. But now I can send in Houndoom, and this Crunch will get a shield or take him out. Actually, it doesn't get shielded, and it doesn't take him out, so big miscalculation on my part there. Then they send in a Melmetal. Now, I cannot switch out into Togekiss, because Togekiss gets wrecked by Melmetal. So I have to stay in with Houndoom. I have to hope that I can bait their shields out with Crunch, or land a Flamethrower. At this point, I do realize that I'll be able to make it to 2 Flamethrowers, so I don't see a point in baiting. Flamethrower does grab a shield, and they're going for a move. Now, Rock Slide would basically take out Houndoom, so I do shield, and I will be able to make it to another Flamethrower, but I do overfarm by 1, because now they'll probably throw, and they're going to definitely be throwing right away, so I do catch the move on a Togekiss. Now, Togekiss will tank a Rock Slide. It still is super effective. They switch into Mewtwo. Mewtwo gets farmed down, and they just concede the match. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Solgaleo. Now, this is amazing, because Houndoom completely walls Solgaleo, and I have gotten really annoyed by seeing Solgaleo, because it does always just manage to destroy any Master League teams I build, so being able to completely obliterate it is fun. Now I'm going for a Crunch. Crunch does not get shielded, and we're able to get a debuff. Now, they have enough for a Solar Beam, and Solar Beam would probably still take us out, but they bait with the Psychic Fangs. At this point, if they're running Psychic Fangs, I don't care if they take me out. Iron Head does a lot of damage, and then they catch the Crunch on a Dragonite. That's fine, I can just get some nice damage, and Togekiss does just completely shut down Dragonite, so it doesn't matter. They're going to go for a move here. Togekiss does not care. They can go for any move. Togekiss will tank it, and we're going to be able to actually make it to an Aura Sphere versus Mamoswine, but I decide against it. I actually just go for the Ancient Power, because I didn't know if they'd overfarm or not. If they hadn't overfarmed, we wouldn't have made it to an Aura Sphere, actually, so that was another slight miscalculation on my part. They're going to go for an Avalanche. Avalanche will take out Togekiss, and I send in Dragonite. Now, Dragonite will just be able to farm them down, and I'm going to switch out into Houndoom just in case they had to back-to-back. I seriously doubted they did, but we get 2 Snarls onto the Solgaleo, and we get the farm down. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Giratina Altered. Pretty good lead, and yeah, Houndoom does kind of rely on winning the lead, but because a lot of the leads actually are weak to Dark or Fire, like, Melmetal, Giratina, Mewtwo, the thing's actually not a bad lead. Now I'm going to go for a Crunch. Crunch will do some nice damage, and the opponent, I would expect them to switch out after this. I was expecting they were going to try and catch the move, so they go for the Dragon Claw, and they actually do not immediately switch out, but they do try and catch afterwards. They send in Machamp, and I am able to switch out, preserving a move on my Houndoom, which is perfect. They go for a Payback, so it looks like someone's not running Rock Slide, which is even better. They then send in the Giratina, so I have no idea what else could be in the back that doesn't want to see Togekiss. We even get a boost with the Ancient Power, and they have their own Togekiss in the back. Now, because we're boosted, we're just going to be able to do a lot more damage with Charms and take less in return. So our Charms are almost able to farm down the Togekiss, and Dragonite is a Togekiss counter confirmed, and we take that game. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Shadow Mewtwo. Now, Shadow Mewtwo usually can just go straight Psy Strike even if it's resisted, simply because of the raw damage output of it. But the thing about this is that Psy Strike doesn't do half, so they're actually not going to be able to just go straight Psy Strike. They'd need 3 to take us out. They then switch into Melmetal. I go for a Flamethrower because I need chip damage on this thing, because it'll beat the rest of my team anyways if we don't get the chip damage. And now I'm just going to farm up. I am fine with losing a shield here. I can farm up a lot and leave with a lot of energy to throw into the Mewtwo. So I'm going to farm up, and I will win the Charge Attack priority tie. And Dragonite will be able to take him out with a Dragon Claw. They actually commit the shield, though. Because I do need to maintain Switch, I am fine with committing a shield. Now, I do get the farm down, and I am hoping that if they send back in the Mewtwo, I'll be able to make it to 2 Dragon Claws. But this Dragon Claw, if they no-shield it, will do a lot. So they actually do shield it. I am able to make it to another Dragon Claw, because this is a Shadow Mewtwo. It'll do a ton. Dragon Claw does quite a lot of damage, and they have to throw. Now, Psy Strike will easily take out Dragonite, but I can just send in Houndoom, and in the back they have Giratina Altered, so yeah. This opponent was not ready for Houndoom. I think that actually core broke their team, because everything on their team was weak to either Dark or Fire. We then catch the Dragon Claw on a Togekiss, and yeah, there's just nothing the opponent can do, so they concede the match. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom in a Groudon. Awful lead. I have to switch out into Togekiss. The opponent sends in Dialga. Now, the Dialga matchup isn't bad, because I can farm up to an Aura Sphere, go for an Ancient Power, and even if they no-shield it, it puts them in a Charm farm down range, so it's fine either way. Farm up to the Aura Sphere, and I'm going to farm out right before they make it to an Iron Head, just to make it look even more threatening, and I'll be able to go for another Ancient Power. This Ancient Power will actually grab a shield. At this point, I am committing both shields for Switch, because Houndoom cannot see Groudon. It'll get obliterated. And thankfully, Togekiss gets the farm down and leaves with an Aura Sphere. The opponent sends back in the Groudon, but Aura Sphere will do a considerable amount of damage to Groudon. It lands, getting them into the yellow health, and they're going to go for a Fire Punch. Fire Punch does not take out Togekiss, and they need another one, because they have no chance of farming me down. They go for another Fire Punch. Fire Punch does take out Togekiss. I bring in Dragonite, and in the back, it's Mewtwo. Yeah, this game's pretty much over unless they have Focus Blast. Now I'm going for the Crunch. Crunch will get shielded, and we do get the Defense Drop, which is amazing. Now the opponent's going for a move here, and it is the Focus Blast, and Houndoom gets obliterated. But thankfully, one Psy Strike does not take us out, so Dragonite will tank it, and we'll be able to leave with some energy to throw into the Groudon. They're actually running Shadow Ball and Focus Blast, though, so I respect the Spice, but we're able to get a full farm down, lead with a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will take out the Groudon from this range, and we'll be able to take that game. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Gyarados. This is pretty bad. Gyarados is going to be able to destroy Houndoom with Aqua Tail, but I'm throwing the Crunch, and the opponent did not throw as soon as they got the move, so I'm able to land the Crunch. I switch into Togekiss trying to catch the move, and the opponent doesn't throw. Now they're throwing a move here, and it's a Hydro Pump, and Hydro Pump does a lot of damage. They then send in Florges, and we might be able to grab a shield with the Ancient Power, but I doubt it. We actually do grab the shield, and the opponent still can't really Fairy Wind farm us down without taking significant charm damage, so they do have to go for a Disarming Voice. The problem is that Florges does pretty well into Dragonite, and it does pretty well into Houndoom as well, and I do no-shield the first move, but I did not calculate this right. I thought it would do less, and it does get me into farm down range. I go for the Crunch. Crunch gets the shield, but I get farm down before I make it to another Crunch. Now I send in Dragonite, and I do have to shield this move because Disarming Voice will do a lot of damage. I still don't even know what they have in the back, but in the back it's Dragonite, and yeah, that floor just had like back-to-back Disarming Voices, so they'd just be able to leave with the back-to-back to take me out even if I got rid of the Dragonite, so I do concede that match. We see Lunala in the next battle, which is quite interesting. I've never seen that before in battle. And Crunch just one-shots him, so what? I have no idea what they were thinking. But we can go for another Crunch into the Gyarados. The opponent does shield it. I'm pretty sure they just saw how much damage it did and was like, nope. But anyways, we can send in Dragonite because this is the Waterfall Gyarados. And the opponent will go for a move, but Outrage is actually... They're actually running Outrage, and I was pretty surprised by that. But Outrage will do a lot of damage. They then send in their own Togekiss, though. And my Shundo Togekiss is going to just be able to take care of theirs. And we're going to be able to just take this game because they actually throw the Ancient Power, but I can shield. And this Gyarados will not be able to farm us down because we have the Ancient Power. And even if they do shield it, then they will get a farm down. But Dragonite just has too much HP. They are going to be able to... Sorry. We actually don't have a lot of HP because of the Outrage. I forgot about that. But Dragonite has too much HP to get farmed down, and Dragon Claw does take out the Gyarados. Extremely bad lead in the next matchup, Houndoom into Garchomp. Now, I'm going to switch out into Dragonite, and this Garchomp's running Dragon Tail, so this isn't good. Thankfully, I do outpace them, so I should be able to grab a shield with his Dragon Claw, and I do. Now, they are actually going to just look to go for a lot of farm, and then they snipe with Togekiss. Now, I do lose that energy, but I'm not bothered by it because Dragon Claw or Superpower wouldn't do too much anyways. Unfortunately, they're one charm ahead, but this does mean I can just go for a full charm farm down. And they go for the Ancient Power, no boost, thankfully, so we will be able to just get a farm down. I leave with a significant amount of energy, and the opponent sends in Garchomp, so they definitely have something in the back that does not want to see Togekiss. Sand Tomb will grab my shield, and I'm going to immediately switch out into Houndoom, and it's Zekrom in the back. Now, I'm going to go for the Crunch. Crunch will do some nice damage, but the opponent actually shields it. We now get the defense drop, so Crunch will do a lot of damage. Their win con was to farm down here, but I'm guessing they're not scared because Crunch would do a lot of damage, but it doesn't matter because it wouldn't take them out. I throw one charm, and I'm going to try and go for the back-to-back Ancient Powers. It doesn't look like it's going to KO, but we had enough energy for an Aura Sphere, so we will be able to take him out. And because the opponent did throw into the Houndoom, we're able to take that game. Hopping into the next battle, and we lead Houndoom into Giratina Altered once again. This is a good lead, and we're going to be able to go for a Crunch, but they're going to be able to outpace us here, and they will be able to outpace us with the Dragon Claw, but Dragon Claw will not do much. It won't get us into a range for another Dragon Claw, so we can go for another Crunch. Crunch will be able to grab the shield, and the opponent is going to go for another Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw won't take us out, and I'm going to go for one Snarl just to throw on good timing, and this Crunch will do some nice damage, but it has no chance of taking him out. Crunch does do some nice damage, and the opponent is forced to throw. I have a Crunch loaded here, so I am going to shield, and I throw one more Snarl, and I'm going to go for the Crunch. Crunch will take them out from this range, so the opponent does just let it go through. Now, the opponent then sends in Tyranitar, and this is not good. Tyranitar with Smackdown just does very well into my backline, as my whole team is weak to Rock. My main answer to Rock types is just Togekiss by committing 2 shields, but I let the Brutal Swing go through, and I am going to go for an Ancient Power just to hopefully grab their shield. The opponent actually lets it go through, and in the back they have Groudon, so yeah, this game's just completely over. 2 Precipice Blades does not take out Dragonite, so there's really nothing this opponent can do. That Precipice Blades does like less than a third, so we could probably even tank 3 of them, I'm not sure. But the opponent shields the Dragon Claw. We're going to be able to make it to another Dragon Claw though, so it's fine. Dragon Claw from this range will not take him out, but it'll get him very low. And even if they do somehow manage to take us out, we still have Togekiss in the back. Precipice Blades does not take us out, and we're going to be able to just take out the Groudon and take that game. Overall, I wouldn't really recommend building this thing. It's just way too glassy, and it doesn't really have the highest attack stat either. It just doesn't have the best stats. However, if you get it into a type advantageous matchup, the thing's actually pretty good. Like, it's able to completely wall Mewtwo, as we've seen, unless they're running Focus Blast. And it does very well into Solgaleo as well, despite the pretty big combat power difference. So, if you want to run it as an anti-meta Pokemon, you can, but this is not something I'd use to climb. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.